Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy, the Anime Abu here, coming at you with part 14 of what Naruto is like Minato, otherwise known as Return of the Flash on Wattpad. I haven't said that in the last couple of videos, and that's my bad, so, I'll get back to remembering that. First and foremost, thank you guys for... We hit 95 subscribers. What? We're 5 away from 100? Oh, snap, my thing's about to go down. We're 5 away from 100, and I'm just feeling really happy. I'm looking forward to hitting 100. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know if y'all even want me to do anything special or just to keep posting the videos. I guess I don't know. Man, that's crazy, 100. So yeah, like, subscribe, and comment. Sorry for the shorter intro. I mean, maybe some of y'all like that, but without further ado, oh snap, man. Whew. Let's get right on into it. As Naruto stared at the number of dango sticks in front of him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia. Back when he was still being trained by Anko-sensei, he had noticed her obsession, more like an addiction, to dango. She was never seen by him without dango, or a dango stick dangling between her teeth. Whenever she was in a good mood, she was always treating him to dango. It was always a very touching gesture for him, so he didn't have the heart to tell her that he preferred Ichiraku ramen. They had been on the dango stand for over 2 hours now, and Naruto had told her everything that had happened to him ever since he became a student at Kakashi. He was careful to leave sensitive parts out, such as the massacre on the bridge, or that he knew the famous jutsu by the Yondaime. Anko whistled when he was finished. Wow, you haven't been bored after you became a team member, have you? Naruto shrugged. Not if you count doing D-rank missions as exciting. I'll pick a C rank or training over them any day. He ruthlessly pushed away the memories of repeatedly catching Tora. He tries utmost to become a Chunin, if only to escape from doing the missions again. Anko hummed, not saying anything else. She avoided any topic that was related to Orochimaru. Naruto took a deep breath and exhaled, slowly getting up. Well, it was nice catching up with you, Sensei, but I gotta rest for tomorrow. I would want to be fully rested for the exam, which you are the proctor of, he said, tweaking between his teeth with the dango stick. Anko also got up and grinned savagely. Damn straight, I better not see you losing in this phase. You got that, Naruto? Naruto smiled wide and gave a thumbs up. Loud and clear. Anko turned to leave, but seemed to remember something and turned around. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Come to training ground 44 tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Naruto tilted his head. Wouldn't this be considered cheating on my part to receive information from a proctor, Sensei? Anko smiled and shook her head. This is the information your team Sensei would be telling you. I'm just saving you the trouble of finding your team or Kakashi. All the best, kid. She vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto nodded to himself and turned around, heading towards Ichiraku. He felt quite good today in the exam, so celebrating was required. Dango was good and all, but it wasn't dinner. Inside his mind, Kurama scoffed, muttering about pathetic excuses to eat unhealthy food. As Naruto neared the ramen stand, he saw something that caused his heart to skip a beat. Oh no! We all know what this is. Temari was roaming around on the street, apparently taking in the sights. The best fact was that she was on her own. None of her brothers were with her, not even Gaara. He didn't know why, but suddenly his palms began to feel sweaty and his heartbeat seemed to increase. This was his perfect chance of spending some time with her. Go for it, Brett. Kurama's encouraging voice came. Wow, he and him were on the same page. His steps automatically began to take him in her direction. Every step felt like it was going too slow, but at the same time, he was going too fast. He had no idea on how to approach her or what to say, but at the same time, he wanted her to spend time with him to enjoy spending Naruto. Oi, Naruto, you will not stutter in front of a mere girl. You're my Jinchuriki, and you won't embarrass me. Naruto wanted to tell him that she didn't even know that he was a Jinchuriki. How the hell did the fact relate to what he was about to do? He barely kept himself from voicing his thoughts to the fox inside, forgetting that Kurama could easily read his mind. Kurama scoffed and refrained from speaking. He will see how Naruto handles this without making himself look like a fool. It happened too quickly, but he was standing behind her. She seemed to be unaware that he was standing directly behind her, stealing up and swallowing up his nervousness. He tapped her on the shoulder. Temari finally relaxed after exiting the hotel where she and her brother were staying. This is like a little time back. This is Temari's point of view. She had known that after their training she was going to get bored because she had nothing to do. After almost a half an hour of arguing, she was able to convince Kankuro to let her leave the hotel. Gaara really didn't care much about what she did, and that was one thing she was grateful for. Baki didn't protest when she told him that she would be able to scout the important locations in the village. So here she was, wandering the streets and taking in the sights. She had to admit Konoha was beautiful. All of the greenery in this village made it seem like the village actually pulsed with life. The weather here was very pleasant as well, although that could be attributed to the greenery. As she was aimlessly wandering, her thoughts turned to the attractive blonde from before. Uzumaki Naruto. She tested the words on her lips, her mouth unconsciously turning into a smile. He was certainly attractive, more so than any boy she had seen of her age. He was also quite fearless and charismatic as well. If what he did when the 10th question was asked is anything to go by, that certainly earned him points in her book. She didn't know if he realized it or not, but he had erased all traces of doubt the intimidating examiner had put into them, including her. Something inside her told her that he knew. Sorry, I just scrolled down. Her hormones seemed to make their presence known as she began to imagine what he looked like without his shirt and jacket on. Jesus Christ. Her cheeks burned as she realized what she was thinking and rapidly shook her head to clear it of any more thoughts like those. Why am I thinking this? I don't even know him. Then her thoughts did a complete 180. Although I wouldn't mind to get to know him through a date or two. She flushed again, though. This time she had a smile and didn't try to shake it off. So lost in her thoughts she was that she just startled a bit when her shoulder was tapped, mentally cursing herself for getting caught off guard. She turned to see who tapped her and got frozen in place when she saw the subject of her thoughts right in front of her. Naruto became a bit confused when Temari turned around and suddenly froze. Guess she wasn't expecting to see me, he thought before waving a hand in front of her eyes. Temari-san? Are you alright? His voice snapped her back into the present. She was looking at him. Oh, she saw him looking at her, a curious expression on his face. Regaining control of herself, she smiled and greeted back. I'm alright, Uzumaki-san. I just wasn't expecting to see you here. She giggled a bit at the sour look that he made. Please don't call me that. Naruto will do just fine. She returned an easy smile. Then you must call me Temari. Being called like that by someone of my age makes me feel old. Naruto didn't know how he was speaking without thinking. That just won't do now, will it? I wouldn't want to make a pretty lady such as yourself feel old, he returned her easy smile. Temari felt her face go warm in his response. Not wanting to be looking embarrassed, she folded her arms and turned her face away, a smile tugging at her lips. Flatterer, she scoffed softly. Naruto internally grinned. This wasn't hard at all. He didn't have to pretend to be someone he wasn't. He would be thinking up on what to say if he was. The lines and responses just instinctively came to him. Temari changed the subject. So what are you doing here, Naruto? Naruto put his hands in his jacket pockets. I'm actually on my way to have dinner after talking with my sensei. He then asked a bit hesitantly, would you like to come with me? Temari barely kept from choking on air, but couldn't prevent her eyes from going wide. What? Naruto then discovered that repeating his question was exponentially harder, but he managed it without stuttering. I said, would you join me for dinner? The smile on his face would have seemed natural to anyone if it wasn't for a drop of sweat rolling down the side of his face. Temari forced her stopped smiling to kickstart. She could not believe it. In just a short while ago, she was thinking of going on a date with Naruto. And not even 10 minutes later, what the hell? And not even 10 minutes later, he was asking her out. She regained her wits and asked, stuttering, are you asking me out on a date? Oh, and her beet red face wasn't helping her at all. She was hoping, though, that the answer would be yes. She might get to know him better. Naruto felt his face get warm a bit, but he just rolled with it, shrugging in what he dearly hoped would be a natural manner. He said with a smooth smile, if you want it to be, sure, let's go with that. Temari seeing Naruto relax, forced herself to relax as well. Crossing her arms, she smirked. So where are you taking me, Naruto? Naruto smirked in return. You haven't been to Ichiraku Ramen, have you? 5 minutes later, they were walking in the direction. Naruto was quickly discovering the awkwardness of the silence between them. To make it go away, he picked a topic that both of them could safely converse about without giving away their secrets. So what's the Shinobi Academy like in Suna? And so the silence was broken and conversation picked off from there. Temari was glad to find out how easy it was to converse with Naruto. His seemingly bored/indifferent attitude in her eyes was perfectly suited to him. His tone was friendly, and to her pleasant surprise, she found herself enjoying to talk to him. "And we have arrived," Naruto announced. Temari looked up to see a small, unassuming ramen shop. It was more like a bar than a shop. "Quite simplistic, this place is," she commented. Naruto smirked and turned to her. "Don't knock it till you tried it." "Yo, Teuchi-san!" A middle-aged man turned around, smiling when he saw his favorite customer. "Naruto!" Temari guessed that Naruto had to be very familiar with him to call him that. The man named Teuchi then spotted Temari standing beside Naruto and his smile widened. "Oh, and who's the lady of yours? A girlfriend on a date?" Yo, that sounded like Muscle Man, but we just gonna roll with it. Roll with the punches. Teuchi suppressed his chuckle as both the children turned red. The girl more than Naruto. Naruto opened his mouth to speak when Ayame came out the back, wiping her hands. "Naruto-kun, who are you? And who is this girl beside you?" she asked, a bit bewildered. Naruto smiled, his blush slowly disappearing. "This is Sabaku no Temari. She's a genin from Suna, here to take part in the tuning exams. And to answer your question, Osan, she's not my girlfriend, but we are definitely on a date," he said with the last part, while turning to Temari and winking, making the sandy blonde redder than she already was, and cursed Naruto in her head for being so charming. Teuchi finally let out his chuckles while Ayame happily sighed. Teuchi asked Naruto, "And you brought your first date to my stand? I'm really honored, Naruto." Naruto shook his head as he motioned for Temari to take a seat. He sat beside her and grinned. "Why wouldn't I? Your ramen's awesome." Turning to Temari, he smiled. "What do you have, Temari?" Temari frowned a bit and answered after a moment. "I'll have a Shio ramen, please." Naruto turned and simply said, "I'll have my usual, son." While the ramen was being prepared, he discreetly checked Temari out of the corner of his eye. Her posture was full of confidence from what he could see. There wasn't a single speck of a fangirl in her. She was indeed a serious kunoichi. Glancing at her legs, he noted with appreciation the toned, smooth calf muscle underneath the fishnet. His gaze then snapped upwards to a place that occupies the mind of a teenage boy. Her chest was actually quite developed for her age, if only the top were a bit lower. Temari was steadily turning redder and redder as she spotted Naruto checking her out. She did not miss the appreciation in his eyes as he checked out her legs and chest. Her embarrassment finally toppled off the edge when she turned to him with a red face and furious eyes. What are you doing?" She expected him to blush and sputter out, fruitlessly try to excuse himself. To her surprise, he didn't even blush at a little bit. Instead, he smirked and returned a question of his own. "What do you think I'm doing?" Their orders arrived, and as Naruto broke his chopsticks, he answered his own question. "I'm checking you out in both ways." Temari's embarrassment turned to confusion at his blunt answer. Taking a bite out of her own ramen, she barely refrained from gasping in pleasure. What is this? Oh, what's the show called? Shokugeki no Soma? Something like that? Food Wars? Shokugeki no Soma? Something like that, right? Food worship. Do y'all know what I'm talking about with the food one where the clothes blow off and shit? And it's like, it gets weird. It's like an ecchi, but like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Is that Shokugeki no Soma? Something like that, man. It's something like that. I don't know, man. Whatever, let's go. As if the food was from heaven itself, Suna had nothing as tasty as this. She heard a chuckle and she opened her eyes to find Naruto staring at her with amusement. Turning a bit red, she scowled and asked, "What's so funny?" His reply was quick. The reaction of everyone who tries the ramen of this stall for the first time, he chuckled as she swiped at his arm for embarrassing her. She then addressed his previous statement. "What did you mean you were checking me out in both ways?" Naruto sneaked a glance in front of him and sighed exasperatedly at seeing Ayame and Teuchi trying to eavesdrop, not so subtly. He loudly cleared his throat, causing the two to turn away and return to their work, whistling innocently. He then turned to Temari, who had a faint look of amusement on her face. "Well, the first point of view is that of a shinobi. You're my competitor, which makes it my duty as a shinobi to gather as much information I can about you," he explained, getting a smirk from her. "Oh, and what have you learned?" Naruto gulped down the last of his ramen and said, "Well, the only thing that I come up with is that you have wind release, indicated by the large fan on your back, which you likely use to augment your jutsu. The size of your fan is also an indicator of your preferred jutsu type. You like to use futon on a larger scale to overwhelm your opponents. He then thought for a bit and added, the size of your fan is an indicator of another thing. The thing is not easy to carry around by any means, so your body has to be physically strong, especially your upper body, considering the strength required to swing it at a force to generate torrents of wind. Temari was getting bowled over on how spot on his observation was. She didn't even know it was possible for a complete stranger to learn the full set of anyone's abilities with just one glance. One thing was for sure, Naruto was extremely intelligent and observational. She didn't know anyone of her age who had analytical skills of this caliber. Naruto was turning out to be a very dangerous opponent now that she thought about it. Finishing his soup, he smacked his lips and turned to face her, the smile never leaving his face. Of course, to everyone, it's blatantly obvious that you prefer using your fan than taijutsu or genjutsu. But you must have a good grasp of taijutsu, if not genjutsu, considering the fact that children of Kages have a certain standard to live up to. I'm totally guessing this, but you don't really seem like the type to use genjutsu. Temari was at a loss for words. No genin should have analytical skills like the ones Naruto was displaying. Everything he had stated up until now was fully true. Something in the last statement caused her to ask a question, but her voice held awe. Wait, you mean everything you just said was based on pure observation, except for the last statement? Naruto rested his elbow on the counter and smirked, nodding. Observation and the conclusion that I've derived from those observations. Of course, to derive those conclusions, I have to know my facts so I can suit my theories to them. Temari looked at her empty bowl, muttering so low that Naruto almost didn't catch it. You were really good at that. Naruto grinned. I better be. I've been practicing for a while now. And what's the second view? Naruto's tone turned purely innocent. Oh, you know how boys check out hot girls. That earned him a swipe at his shoulder. But there was no heat behind it, and the twitching corners of her mouth gave it away. Paying for both of them, despite Temari's protest, he bid the father and daughter goodnight, and they left. I have to say that date wasn't half bad, she smirked while walking alongside him. He was escorting her back to her hotel. She had to admit it was incredibly cute of him. Naruto nodded, putting his hands back in his pockets. I have to agree with that. For a date in the middle of the tuning exams, it wasn't bad at all. They talked a bit more, and when they finally reached her hotel, Temari turned to Naruto and smiled genuinely. Thank you for the date, Naruto. It was really fun, not to mention the great food. Much to her surprise, Naruto actually looked embarrassed at the praise. He rubbed the back of his head with a sheepish look. Oh, you're embarrassing me. Then he smiled back at her. Seriously, though, I had too much fun going on a date with you. An awkward silence descended upon them again as neither knew how to properly say goodbye. Chuck it, Naruto decided. In a move that surprised Temari, he leant forward and pressed a light peck to her cheek, just near the corner of her mouth. Good night, he muttered before vanishing. He did it so fast that it didn't even register to Temari when he left, and how he had left. She just kept staring off into space, a blank look on her face. When she did recover, a massive blush appeared on her face as she smiled and rubbed the corner of her mouth where he had kissed. She wanted to be angry that he kissed her without her consent, but it was a very sweet gesture, and not to mention the perfect end to their date. He's bold, that's for sure. She thought before going up to her room, a happy and dreamy smile on her face. She wouldn't have minded another date with him. Here, wait. Naruto had, for the first time in a long time, a sleep filled with dreams that were actually pleasant. He and Temari were on the beach, with Temari wearing some really skimpy bikini. He was this close to kissing her when his bloody alarm rang and woke him up. He rarely ever groaned while waking up because the dream was close to reaching the best part. Then again, you rarely ever get to see the best part in those kinds of dreams. He thought wistfully, getting out of bed. He proceeded to do his morning rituals and headed onto the roof. He needed his mind to be in a state of hyper-focus. He couldn't afford any distractions today. Creating a shadow clone to restock his equipment and make breakfast, he flipped onto the roof and sat down in a meditative state. For an hour, he proceeded to calm down and focus his mind on a single objective: to succeed. He mentally went through every piece of information he had read and come up with over the years, every tactic, strategy, everything. When he opened his eyes, all the grogginess was gone, replaced by an intense focus and determination. He proceeded to review the memories that suddenly came from his dispelled clone. He nodded satisfactorily how both of his hip pouches and thigh holsters were stocked. Both pouches were stocked with ample kunai, shuriken, explosive tags, both the normal of tandem explosive tags, flash tags, ninja wire, soldier pills, sealing scrolls, both storage and blank. tying his spiky black hair neatly. Spiky hair back. Oh, yeah, I forgot. If y'all didn't remember, Naruto got longer hair in this one, you feel me? Tying his spiky hair back neatly, he finished dressing and sat down for breakfast his clone had prepared for him. He swiftly finished his breakfast and... Oh, shoot. Damn. We was doing so good. How long is this? Wow. You know, we're not even like... we're not even close to halfway there. This is going to be a long part. I was going to finish this whole chapter for y'all in this episode, but I'm going to have to do another 0.5. Water. It's not even halfway there, and that's good, but also not. But I'll just record 2 tonight. Alright, I digress. Let's continue. Tying his spiky hair back neatly, he finished dressing up and sat down for breakfast his clone had prepared for him. He swiftly finished his breakfast and washed his plate. Looking up at the clock, he saw that he had half an hour to the exam. Time to leave, he decided. After closing the door to his apartment, he activated the security seals and left. He walked at a comfortable pace to the training ground 44. Upon arriving, he saw that the Genin were still assembling. Naruto! The call made him turn, spotting his 2 teammates coming. Sasuke and Sakura looked determined, more determined than ever. He waved back. 10 minutes after they had all assembled, a burst of smoke in front of the crowd revealed Anko in all her glory. Look sharp, greenies. Welcome to Training Ground 44, otherwise known as the Forest of Death. She introduced with a sinister flair mixed with dramatics. She had her trademark bloodthirsty showing, making some of them sweat and the rest feel anxious. For the second part of the exam, the objective is to retrieve and protect. But first, you all are going to have to sign these papers if you want to take part in this portion of the exam, she said, waving a bunch of papers in her hands. As they were handed the papers, Naruto raised an eyebrow at the large letter, form of consent printed on top. He quickly read and signed it, just in time to hear a Genin across the group call out, "What do we need to sign these for? We obviously have to take the exams." Anko easily dismissed the statement and explained with a breezy smile, "Oh, that's your agreement to accept all the risks in the forest, so your respective villages don't blame me, and by extension Konoha, for all your deaths, get it?" Next to him, Sakura shivered at the words, but when he looked up, she had signed the form and looked with a steady gaze. Man, fuck Sakura. Alright, listen up, or you're gonna die before even reaching the halfway mark. One member of each team will take the forms to the row of tents over there, where the forms will be exchanged for a scroll. Some will get heaven, some will get earth. You need both, and you need to get them to the tower in the middle of the forest in order to pass, she explained. Somehow her tone turned even more serious after that. Of course, you also need all of your teammates to pass upon arrival. You must also not open the scrolls until you get there. She glared at everyone gathered, daring them to disagree with her. Ino raised her hand. What happens if we open them in the forest? Anko smirked. Something unpleasant for you and your team. Naruto gave his form to Sasuke, who also took Sakura's form, and went over to get a scroll for them. As he walked away, Naruto decided to scope out the competition, and nearly choked upon sensing a massive chakra signature somewhere in the distance. It was easily as big as his own, perhaps even bigger, not to mention unusually potent. And he almost retched at how much malice it contained. Zabuza didn't even come even remotely close to what he was sensing now. Gaara, but only perhaps, discreetly he gazed in its direction from his peripherals and found out who it was. It was a Kunoichi from Kusa, and she was gazing in their direction with a strange look on her face. Naruto immediately averted his eyes and analyzed what he knew. Okay, that was no ordinary chakra signature. No Genin can have a chakra pool that large. Not to mention, it's simply impossible for an average Genin to let out such a malicious feeling from their chakra. Her chakra, though, will have to be extremely careful of how we proceed, he thought, as Sasuke came back with a heaven scroll. Sakura jolted with the realization, this test is designated to cut our numbers in half. Only half of us can go to the next round. You're right, Pinky. We can't have weaklings being Chunin, so we gotta weed out. And now that everyone has a scroll, you also have a time limit. 5 days only. If you run out of time, try again next year. Choji looked very upset. What will we do for food? The forest is full of food. Giant, juicy bugs and large predators that will eat you if you don't eat them. Anko absently waved her hands. Poor Choji looked ready to cry. Can we quit? Shikamaru asked, wincing as Ino hit the back of his head. Anko scowled. Hell no! You think you can just quit in the middle of a mission? You want to quit? Hurry up and die. Line up at the gates and be ready, she shouted, pointing towards the gates surrounding the forest. As Team 7 walked up to the gates, Naruto put his hands around his teammates' necks and pulled them close. Sasuke grunted at the sudden accident. Sakura almost shrieked, Naruto! Look, stay quiet. His harsh whisper shut her up. Even Sasuke perked up. Naruto was being unusually serious. Listen, don't look openly, but you see the Kusa Kunoichi? He didn't wait for them to look. The first things first. If you see her, run or fly. I don't care what you do, but do whatever you can to get the fuck away from her. There's no way she's a Genin. Same goes for the team of Suna. You see that redhead? You run. Away. He emphasized, looking directly at Sasuke, a storm blowing in his eyes. Sasuke would have normally disregarded Naruto's words, but the urgency and unusual harshness with which he said caused him to have second thoughts. He trusted Naruto's abilities as a censor, so if he was saying something like this so seriously, he would not question it. Naruto saw Sasuke silently nod and turned to Sakura for the same. She looked shaken, but gave a nod as well. As they faced the gates, Naruto turned to look one last time. He caught Shikamaru's serious look. He turned away and concentrated on his own entrance. He caught Temari's eye, who, to his surprise, did not blush, but gave him a nod for best of luck. He returned it with one of his own. He saw Anko looking at him with a grin, holding a thumbs up. She mouthed, "Oh, the best," before she prepared to give the signal. "Contestants, ready, set, go!" she shouted in a giddy voice as all the gates opened simultaneously and all the Genin shot in with the intent to win. Team 7 took up a three-point formation, with Naruto in the front, Sasuke at Sakura in the behind. The two of them acknowledged Naruto's sensing ability, so this way Naruto would be the first to sense something. "We should really come up with a plan for the duration of this test," Naruto said as he flipped over a branch. "Fine. Down there in the clearing," Sasuke ordered, and they descended to the clearing he spoke of, hidden behind a log. "Let's make this quick because the air is quickly becoming more saturated with our opponent's smells," Naruto commented, sniffing around with his nose. Sasuke spoke up. "My plan is simple. Find and ambush a weaker team for their Earth Scroll and hightail it to the tower. We take breaks sparingly, even at night." Naruto raised an eyebrow at the last point. "Even at night?" Sasuke tilted his head. "I was counting on your superior night vision." Naruto acknowledged his point. "While this is good and all, we would have to stick to the ground for you two to avoid face planting into a branch. I can also see a weakness to this plan, though. While being on the ground gives us room to run, we would be more vulnerable to attacks from those who can use Earth Jutsu. Not to mention other teams who might possibly follow a similar plan," he speculated. Sasuke blinked at how quick Naruto was able to point out the faults in his plan. He was about to suggest something when Naruto spoke. "But we will follow it, since I can't think of anything better right now. But you're forgetting something, Sasuke. What is it?" Naruto smirked. "We have a great opportunity to use my shadow clones to their full advantage. I can look for the Earth Scrolls with them, but we would have to find a safe place to wait. Once we get both scrolls, I can make up the decoys and divide them between me and Sakura, while you take the decoys." Sasuke thought about it for a moment, black eyes flickering to the ground before looking up directly into the blondes. "Sounds good, Uzumaki, but where can we hide?" Sakura spoke for the first time. "Sasuke-kun, we can hide up in the topmost part of the trees." Sasuke rose an eyebrow. "How is that a good hiding spot?" He was surprised that she didn't blush once when he spoke to her. "Konoha will be expected to be hidden in the trees, but since we know that as well, our enemies will count on us to be on the ground. They would never guess that we'll be hidden right above them." Naruto nodded. It was a good plan for a temporary hideout. "Fine, we'll do that. I'll make my clones and send them away first." He held a half-ram seal, and without a wisp of smoke, 40 shadow clones appeared and disappeared to perform their task just as quickly. They settled down at the highest level of a tall tree. Naruto spread his senses out, not wanting to be off guard for even a moment. He took out his spare scrolls and sealing supplies and began preparing the decoys. Remember, as they look for the scrolls, they'll also be gathering info on the teams to see whether they are weak or strong. As soon as their memories come back to me, I'll go through them to single out the best path to go through. "You're pulling a lot of weight," Sakura said with some concern. Naruto smirked but stayed quiet. As he finished the decoys, a sudden influx of memories caused his eyes to widen in alarm. His teammates looked at him urgency with apprehension on their face. Something had spooked him. They didn't know how many things that could spook the strongest member of his team. He whipped around to glare at them, and they almost flinched at the coldness in his eyes. "I'll repeat this, Sakura, Sasuke. If you see the Suna team, run away. You see the Kunoichi from Suna, sprint, fly, disappear. I don't care what you do, but avoid confrontation with her at all costs. Is that understood?" He glared at them even more coldly in order to get the seriousness of the statement across. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Why is she so... Naruto cut him off with a wave of his hand. Face serious, he said, "It's just better if you trust me on this one, Sasuke. Now," his expression became neutral once more. "I found a team for us to ambush. Remember the team from Ame? They're a mile away from us, northeast. If we hurry, we can catch them before their argument of who gets the fake and real scroll ends." Sasuke looked at him sharply for switching topics, but didn't push for any more info. He took the lead this time to their target. Just as they stopped behind a large tree, Naruto informed them the real scroll is the middle one. Sasuke said, "Alright, Naruto, do you have a plan?" He had accepted the point that it's better if Naruto made the plans between them. Naruto's plans followed utmost discretion in these types of situations, which is what they needed right now. Naruto nodded, soundlessly forming 3 shadow clones. "Sasuke, remember how Kakashi buried you in the bell test? That's what we'll do to these 3. In case one of them escapes, you and Sakura will take care of that." Sasuke as well as Sakura gaped at him. "That's the best you have?" He barely refrained from lashing out because the plan was all kinds of stupid. Naruto smirked in a way that did nothing to comfort the black-haired Avenger. "No, but I'm expecting all of them will escape my hold. The decoys I gave you, they're a bit dangerous, so keep a safe distance after giving them away. We'll be eliminating the competition entirely, you see. I'm falling back in case they see you," he said, preparing to jump the tree. "Why?" Naruto glanced at the pink-haired girl. "Every plan should have a backup plan." With that, he jumped away. The clones formed 3 hand seals and sunk into the ground. Sasuke and Sakura watched with anticipation on what would happen. They were half surprised when all 3 evaded capture, but only Naruto had expected them to. The one on the left called out, "You wouldn't know subtlety if it hit you in the face, Blondie." He dispelled the clone, and with his teammates doing the same. The clones had actually allowed themselves to be dispelled to appear weak. The truth was, they had allowed themselves to be detected. He called out, "You really thought we would fall so easily for such a pathetic plan? Come out, and we might let you live. You can't escape us." With an angry scowl, Sasuke jumped with Sakura by his side, eyes wide and wary. It was all up to Naruto now. "Where's the Blondie?" The Ame nin who Sasuke suspected was the leader asked roughly. Sasuke answered in a tight tone. "He went to find us a hiding spot after leaving us with the clones." He was absolutely sure that the leader was smirking at them behind his breathing apparatus and said in a mocking tone, "All right, kid, now hand over your scroll." Sasuke took out the heaven scroll from his pouch and threw it to the leader, who caught it with ease. He sounded pleased. "A heaven scroll, perfect. It'll go perfectly with a earth scroll. You 2, kill them." The 2 behind him took out their kunais and advanced. Sakura stuttered fearfully as she took a step back. But you said..." "I said I might let you live, and I decided that I won't. Now hurry up and kill them," he said impatiently. The fuck is wrong? What's happening at my door? Whatever it is, better stop. Came to the sound of Naruto's all too joyous roar. Sasuke and Sakura immediately jumped back, but the 3 Ame nin made the dire mistake of turning in the direction of the voice. The heaven scroll in the leader's hand revealed itself to be very effective and explosive tag. To be a very effective explosive tag. And explosive tag, okay, whatever. A very effective explosive tag. Sakura and Sasuke, even while being on the ground, were almost blown back a few more feet from the sheer blast. It was a testament to how dangerous the tags Naruto used were. That went quite royal. His voice came through the smoke. Sasuke and Sakura looked up to see Naruto grinning, earth scroll in hand. Sasuke just grunted as he stood up. "I agree." He was a little disoriented from the blast along with Sakura, but they'd be alright in a few seconds. "Naruto, are they?" Sakura asked, really not wanting to know. Naruto nodded. "Of course they're dead. Anyone who was standing as close as those 3 to the tag." He tossed the earth scroll to Sasuke. "Keep it with yourself. I'll make the decoys." As Sasuke and Sakura covered him, Naruto dropped to his knees, took out a sealing supply. He steadily inked out the seal for the next 2 minutes, adding a seal to make the scrolls look exactly like a real one, along with a few other additions. "All right," Naruto sighed as he packed up his sealing supplies, handing over the new figs to Sasuke, who looked confused. Naruto explained, "Change of plans. You're sticking with the fake scrolls. Me and Sakura will keep the Earth and Heaven scroll. Remember, there's an addition to the fake scroll. The new one that I gave you are now smoke screens, so be careful not to mix them up. Sasuke nodded and pocketed the scrolls, giving his blonde teammate a nod of thanks. Okay, same formation as before. This time we won't be stopping until we reach the tower. They went through the trees again, with Naruto setting a comfortable pace so as to allow the other two to keep up. He could have used Shunsui to get them to the tower faster, but this was a good opportunity to check out any teams they come across for the next phase of the exam. It wasn't too long before problems arose. Naruto tensed as he sensed the very familiar evil chakra heading their way, and fast, and it wasn't alone. "Move, people, we have a tail," he ordered. As he picked up the pace, Sakura and Sasuke tensed and picked up their pace as well. Naruto motioned for Sasuke to switch positions. As if they were caught, Naruto would be able to distract them. Naruto took a glance behind when he flipped over one of the branches. No one was behind them, but Naruto knew that whoever was following them would be catching up at any time. Gritting his teeth, he summoned a 99 Shadow Clone, all of which transformed into replicas of the original Team 7. "Move, damn it, move!" he hissed sharply. The clones took off in different directions, each fake team splitting up. Though I suspect it won't be enough, he grimly thought. He ordered his team, "All right, just for a short while, move like your ass is on fire. Let's go!" They kicked it into high gear and as far away as possible. He was somewhat relieved when the large signature got off their backs. Keeping his senses open, he sensed that the signature was far enough that they could take a short break. He signaled his team to stop on a branch. "I know who is following us now," he revealed as he gulped down some much-needed water along with the others. When the other two looked at him, he said, "One of them was a giant snake that only seemed interested in making me its meal. The other is the bitch from Kusa I was warning you about. She's wiped out 10 of the 33 teams, and she's mad. Bottom line, we need to reach the tower fast, so hold on." When the two gave questioning looks, he sighed impatiently and said, "I'll use the body flicker to move us. Now come on!" He almost yelled. They grabbed each of his shoulders tightly so they wouldn't be left behind. Naruto was just about to form the ram seal when his danger sense exploded. He hadn't even molded the chakra for a Shunsui, so he instinctively flash-stepped to avoid the attack that obliterated the branch they were on. Reaching the ground, the other two released their hold and got into stances. Sakura was shaking at how close she was from getting blown to pieces. It was only thanks to Naruto's speed that they were able to move like that. They were able to avoid that. Sasuke gripped the kunai in his hand tighter as he stared into the dust cloud in front of them. He squashed the tiny twinge of fear that went through him. Naruto was very serious about the Kusa Kunoichi being dangerous. Based on Naruto's tone, they were fighting an opponent who was possibly stronger than all three of them combined. Kunai immediately snapped into his hands, with wind chakra coursing through them. He stared impassively at the dust cloud, knowing that whatever was behind it would possibly be threatening to their lives in a way much worse than what Zabuza did. Their first priority was to run away, not fight, because they had a much worse chance. They had a worse chance of surviving than a snowball in hell. Plans flashed in his mind, each being discarded instantly as he tried to come up with one that actually gave them a chance. He wasn't allowed to think further when his eyes widened to learn. He executed a scissor kick to push his teammate away, just in time for himself to avoid the mouth of a huge snake that tried to swallow him. "Can't fight this snake here. I need more space, damn it." He cursed mentally. He turned in the opposite direction and purposely set the pace so that he could be the bait for the snake, to lure the snake away from his comrades. Sasuke cursed as he tensed up even more, moving himself in front of Sakura. "Sasuke-kun, we have to help Naruto," she screamed, already tensing up to jump when a slick voice dripping with malicious amusement, even while being female, spoke up behind them. "No need to worry about your friends. He will be dead very shortly. You have to worry about me." Both of them turned around and the tension inside of them almost doubled when they saw who it was. The Kunoichi from Kusa. Oh, I'm in such a tough spot. I'm debating. Do I continue? We're about halfway through. If I stop it here, this would be a good spot. Alright, so we'll stop it here, and then we'll make another 14 and a half. Yay! Okay, guys. So, that's the end of this part. We still got about a half a chapter to finish. I'll probably record it tonight, drop it tomorrow. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, but today, oh my gosh, man. I woke up at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It was crazy. So once I finished school, because my school finishes like 12 o'clock. Once I finished school, I went right back to bed. Oh my gosh. And then I woke up at like 5. And then, yeah. went about my day. You know, looked for some jobs. Just applied. I just sent in an application. Played some video games. Did some homework because I had homework. You know, this is, you know, pretty uneventful day. What about you guys? Let me know down below. Yeah, but leave a like, comment, subscribe. We're about to hit 100. Let me know if you want me to do something for 100. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might just start a new series or something. Read a new book. Who knows? I don't know. But, yeah. 100. Wow. That's crazy. Well, alright then. This is your boy, the Anime Abu, and I'm out. Deuces.